breaking news from Indonesia and the terror attacks in the capital Jakarta, where there's been a series of explosions and gunfire. 6 civilians and 5 attackers are known to have been killed, according to police. The authorities say the situation is now under control. 4 suspects have been arrested. Here's an eyewitness account from the city.
I was riding a motorbike when suddenly the explosion went off at the police post. I saw people running away and 2 people lying on the ground bleeding. I also saw 2 people on a motorbike with a backpack. They were the guys who threw the bomb.
Multiple locations across Jakarta have been hit. Witnesses say 3 suicide bombers detonated themselves near a Starbucks cafe. One blast went off outside the United Nations building in the center of the capital. Earlier reports said that several gunmen were holed up in a cinema. A group linked to Islamic State militants is suspected of carrying out the attack, according to police. That's despite earlier denying that ISIL was involved. The police chief added that the terrorists imitated the attacks in Paris. The Pray for Jakarta hashtag is currently trending on Twitter to express solidarity with the victims. With me now is Sultan Mahmood Ali, who's a retired group captain from Pakistan's Air Force, also now a political analyst and terrorism expert. Welcome to the programme. There are fears that Indonesia could be a fertile recruitment ground for jihadists. As far as you're aware, do you think that's a realistic threat?
Well, it's a sad day, but not totally unexpected, because although the ISIL has not taken responsibility for this particular attack yet, but you may recall that on Christmas Eve and also New Year's Eve, they had sent warnings that they are going to target the lucrative sites and targets in Indonesia, in Jakarta. And perhaps the extra vigilance of the law enforcing agencies did not permit them to carry those attacks. And today, they finally found their chance and they hit out. And this appears to be a series of attacks. I heard you mention the Paris attack. Of course, there's been this attack in Istanbul. There's an attack in the Pakistani consulate in Jalalabad, and now Jakarta. So all these are linked, apparently, and it is the ISIL, which has become the new monster, is trying to spread its wings.
Yeah, what about the closeness of any link or not to ISIL? Because Indonesia hasn't declared a war on terror. It hasn't been part of any coalition. Is it likely that it's just copycats or distant sympathizers?
Well, you see, there are 2 aspects to it. First of all, ISIL, you got to look at, or not just ISIL, any terror group, you got to look at what is the rationale behind their creation. Unfortunately, they are the creations of the West, which every few years churns up a group and nurtures them, not specifically for terrorism, but for their own heinous ends. And in the end, they either start biting the hand that fed them and trained them and armed them, or they become total Frankenstein. And the ISIL, you see, they have also let out their franchise. Like we see that in Afghanistan, it is not the Syrians or Iraqis who are fighting there, but they're given a franchise to the local Taliban or even disgruntled criminal elements. Excuse me. The same may be possible for Indonesia. So these people, they are fighting in the name of IS or ISIL, but they may not necessarily be the original Arabs who were behind it. But as I mentioned, that they are creations of the West, and now they are a terror which is wreaking horror all over the world.
Thanks for sharing your expertise on that. Sultan Mahmood Ali, retired group captain from the Pakistan Air Force. Thanks for joining us on RT International.